Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Let me introduce myself. My name is Irza Fadhilatur Rohmah, and I would like to explain about the basic verb phrase. What is verb phrase? Based on linguistics, the definition of verb phrase is a construction in a clause consisting of a verb and its internal complements, object, or modifiers. Based on grammar, the definition of verb phrase is a phrase that functions syntactically as a verb consisting of a mind and any auxiliaries. Based on translation, the definition of verb phrase is a phrase that functions syntactically as a verb. What are the kinds of verb? Two kinds of verb in English, lexical and auxiliary. Lexical verbs are the ones that belong to the indefinitely large general vocabulary of the language. Example: run, eat, seem, explain, recycle, settle, prepare, and depend. Auxiliary verbs, by contrast, are a special and any restricted set of verbs. Example: be, have, and do or can be lexical to and can or could, will or would, shall and should, might or might, must and need. A full verb phrase must contain a lexical verb and it may contain auxiliary verb. In the following, the lexical verbs are in bold and the auxiliary verbs are in italic. Number 1 E. Diana plays. Plays is lexical verb, the piano. Number 1 B. Diana played like the piano. Played is lexical verb. Number 2, Andres is explaining his generalization. Is auxiliary, explaining is lexical verb. Number 3, Maggie should have recycled those bottles. Should have is auxiliary, recycled lexical verb. Number 4, Wim might have been preparing his lecture. Might have been is auxiliary, preparing lexical verb. Lexical verbs are easily identified by their morphological, their word forms, possibilities. Their words that take some, if not all, of the verbal inflection is in, it, and. For example, plays, playing, played, and writers, writing, written. A general point to note in identifying categories, one that applies particularly to verbs, is that words can belong to more than one category. For example, to verbs is that words can belong to more than one category. For example, interest is certainly a verb. Interest, interesting, interested. Example, Millie's hair interested him. But both interest and interest can also be nouns, singular and plural respectively, as in number 6 E until P, and interesting and interested can be adjective, as in number 7E until P. Number 6E, Its great art, art, architectural interest did not strike him immediately. Number 6b. John's interests are rather eccentric. Number 7e. A very interesting plan was proposed. Number 7b. He wasn't very interested in the bean production. Notice in passing that the adjectives interesting and interested are gradable and also can be modified by very. By contrast, no verb can be modified by very. Number 8e. Millie's hair very interested him. Number 8b. Her hair was very interesting him. Example number 9. Bill treats affectionate cats. The verb phrase is treats affectionate cats and treats is the verb. We desired that the relation between the verb treats and the noun phrase affectionate cats is a head complement relation. It's a two-way mutual dependency between the verb as here and the noun phrase, its complement. The use of treats without a following noun phrase is ungrammatical as a sentence, and so is the use of the noun phrase without treats. Example: Bill treats and Bill affectionate cats. While treat must take a noun phrase, somebody cannot take a noun phrase, so the presence of the noun phrase depends not just on there being a verb present, but more importantly on what sort of verb it is. Treat and sunpad are examples of two general sorts or subcategories of lexical verbs. Lexical verbs are subcategories according to what other elements must appear with them in the verb phrase. In other words, they are subcategories set in terms of what complements they demand. Just because a noun phrase can follow the verb sympathetic doesn't mean that nothing can follow the verb in the verb phrase. We have seen, for example, that the prepositional phrase beside a stream can, but this prepositional phrase cannot be the complement of sympathy because it is not required to complete the meaning of the verb phrase. What shows is that the verb sympathy functions as a complete verb phrase in its own right. Beside a stream just gives extra optional information. If we omit it, we are still left with a complete verb phrase. So in the verb phrase sympathy beside a stream, the prepositional phrase is a modifier, not a complement. The fact that a prepositional phrase can follow but can't therefore be used to subcategorize the verbs. All verb phrases can include optional modification by prepositional phrase. Notice, for example, that a prepositional phrase can be added after treats affectionate cats. Bill treats affectionate cats in the high fever season. So treat and sympathy are discussed by the obligatory presence or absence of a following noun phrase, but not by the optional presence or absence of a following prepositional phrase. The two subcategories discussed above are not the only ones. This chapter deals with 6 subcategories of lexical verbs. Number 1, transitive. Number 2, intransitive. Number 3, detransitive. Number 4, intensive. Number 5, complex transitive. Number 6, prepositional. And the form of transitive, intransitive, detransitive, intensive, complex, and prepositional. You can see this: transitive, subject, verb, direct object. Intransitive, subject, verb. Detransitive, subject, verb, indirect object, direct object, or subject, verb, direct object, indirect object. Intensive, subject, verb, subject, predicative. Complex, subject, verb, direct object, object predicative. And less prepositional, subject, verb, prepositional complement. The following might help in identifying the subcategories of verb in sentence. You can see this. And I think that's all. Thank you. And if you any question, feel free to ask. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.